I feel good. Probably the best of my adult life. And I'm 55. It's a long time. But I've been 13 months now farm free. And that's PHARM free. No antibiotics, no supplements. And I feel good. There's a clarity of mind that is there, the ability to focus, channel my energy, have more energy, and the only drawback now is that I'm terribly out of shape from 7 years of laying around on the couch, unable to do anything. So, but that's a small price to pay for having the focus and clarity of mind that has been missing for so long. And it's nothing short of miraculous. And it is living proof that you can recover, you can get your life back, you can be cured. Now, what is a cure? If you are 90% back, are you cured? It remains to be seen. If it comes back next year or next month, well, are you still cured? Well, if you have the presence of mind, well, if you get 90% of your life back, you're having a quality of life that is way beyond your wildest imaginations when you're sick. And that goes a long ways towards saying you're cured. So, will I always be? I don't know. It's too early to tell. But for right now, has it been worth the 44 months of antibiotic treatment and the hell that you go through? Hell yeah. It's been 13 months. That alone, just these 13 months, have been worth it. So anything here on out is gravy. It's going to happen. And here we go. I'm back. I'm back. And I'm doing stuff. Good stuff. And it's with a new perspective. A perspective I wouldn't have had otherwise. Absolutely. And would I go back and change anything? No. Just for the same reasons. Here we are, these last 13 months, and this new perspective is everything. So, life is good. Here we go. Well, for the first time, I am who I am supposed to be, or who I really am. There are terrible identity issues for people with neuroborreliosis, or at least some of us. And the slow deterioration of your identity until you are no longer who you used to be at all. You've been stripped of all the things that make up your personality, even your ability to think, the faculties of will and reason. When those things are gone, there isn't much left. And I remember screaming at my doctor, I don't even know if I'm human anymore. And that's what it felt like. I wasn't. It's not being human. The qualities that make us humans are what make Lyme so diabolical. And to have those things back, I can rest now comfortably knowing that I am who I am. And that was not there for years, maybe even decades. So on one hand, you could look back and you can say, I've lost my whole life to this. But on the other hand, you can say, I made it through the swamp And I have my life back. I have a new life and a new opportunity to move on. So who's to say? Who's to say whether anything could have been better? Yeah, I suppose, sure. If I'd never had it, I'd have had all those years to be who I am. I may be further ahead, but at the same time, who can say? You can't say that. Well, during the slow, gradual onset of the affliction, there was a growing sense of being self-conscious all the time. Nothing seemed right. I did not feel part of humanity. I felt separated from it. I often use the analogy of being stuck inside a dirty terrarium that I could barely see through the glass at the outside world. And that was my life for years. Unbeknownst to me for the longest period, and only in the past few years since learning of why and that this was not a natural thing. So the difference is night and day. It couldn't be more antithetical now to what I was then. Really a mere apparition of a human before. I still say now that I was not human. I did not possess the characteristics of it. I did not have the feelings of empathy and the reason and the will, none of the clarity. All that was gone. Didn't exist. And it's a surreal world. It's a true reality. It's not a pleasant one. It's a horrific one. And I knew it at the time, but did not know that I would ever get out of it. And this is where a lot of people fall short, either on the long-term antibiotic treatment. They see that they're not getting well. They feel worse. And these are the things that you need to keep in mind when you get on this path, because it's going to be a long time before you start feeling better. And you're going to feel a lot worse getting there. This is normal. This is normal for people who are severely compromised. This is what to expect. And still today, I see that people do not understand that duration of treatment is as important as finding out what you've got, getting on the right protocol. If you don't have that duration of treatment, you will relapse and you will fall back into you'll fall back into the duration of the treatment is as critical as finding out. If you find out, you get the right doctor, you get diagnosed properly, you get on the antibiotic protocol. But if you don't stay on that protocol long enough, it is all for naught. You might improve, you might get better, but if you do not stay with it till the bitter end, and you have to stay on it until you start feeling better. For me, that was 44 months. Well, I've had it a long time. For some people, it'll take less. For some people, it'll take more. Theoretically, every cell in the human body is replaced at my age every 7 years. So the longest it could possibly take would be 7 years to be completely free of this disease, as long as you stay with it. The duration of treatment and the consistency. There are no vacations for people on antibiotics. You take 2 months off, your body is going to regenerate new cells that become reinfected, and basically you're starting over. And that still may be the case for me. If it's down in my bones and it comes back in 2 or 3 years, I may be back onto antibiotic protocol to fight it, and I may never get rid of it. But if I can maintain that 90% quality of life, then even with repeated treatment, I still have a life worth living. Number 1, you find the right doctor. Number 2, you get properly diagnosed. Number 3, you get on the right antibiotic protocol. And number 4, the duration of treatment. Those are the 4 pillars of getting well.
And then maintenance.
After that is maintenance. But I would say the 5th pillar would be plain dumb luck. Most people are not as lucky as I am. I happen to have a support network through family who understood, and was lucky enough to find a doctor who recognized the symptoms and got me on the path. And that the doctors that I've had since being diagnosed, which are 2, were willing to take me the whole way home. They're not encouraging me to wrap up the antibiotics and start feeling better. They understood that the duration of treatment was equally as important as the others. So I was extremely fortunate, and I may be only 1 out of 100 people who will actually find out what they've got, find the right doctor, get the right protocol, and stay on it long enough to make the difference. I just don't see where there is much hope for the majority of people who are afflicted at this time until we have a lot more knowledge and awareness out there. Most people will never find out what they've got. They'll be diagnosed with MS or lupus or Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, any of the neurodegenerative diseases that is probably the result of Lyme. And they call Lyme the great imitator, but I would call it the great initiator, for it is the source of many of these ailments. The reason we're not seeing more progress on this is the money. All about the money. The healthcare system is all based upon keeping people sick. Healthy people don't pay for Mercedes, and diseased people do. There is no incentive in our medical healthcare system to promote awareness about the cure for Lyme. They'll fight it tooth and nail because they've said it doesn't exist. They're making money on the fact that they do not have to disclose this information. And for them to come around and admit now that, oh, well, we were wrong, that's just not going to happen. Or if it's going to happen, it's going to happen slowly. The wheels of change turn slowly. And that's what we're seeing here. It's a battle, and it's a war. It's a global threat. There are probably a majority of the population that have it and do not know it. So we have a long ways to go. We've come a long ways, but there is much further to go. And when we find out 20 years from now the truth about what's happening, wow. And how many generations will have been born with it by then? It's incredible. Yeah. I mean, if we ignore the problem, it'll become an extinction event. People will be so impaired being born with the disease, how will they even reproduce? And if they do, what kind of offspring after 2 or 3 generations? It's just not going to happen. So the need for the awareness is critical. The need for treatment is critical. And we got to stop pussyfooting around and get together on this issue. There's no reason to deny people treatment when we know what works. And people who are battling that, I don't understand their motives other than self-interest and greed. And those are what are standing in the way. There is such a thing as normal. People have often said, well, there's no such thing as normal. Normal is relative. But there is a real normal. It's when your body is functioning the way that it should, that you're in good health, that autonomously you're functioning properly. Those things are normal. These are what people in the normal world take for granted. That you're able to multitask, that you can think about things while you're doing other things. Those things aren't happening for people with Lyme. And just to be normal is the promised land. It's heaven for us who have been through the hell. And so I would say that there is such a thing as normal with a capital N. And it is where we want to be. It's where we should be. It's where we need to be. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is having a normal life. Finally.